The coffee war was supposed to be over. It wasn't. 6 months after Ibukinaliwa Adebayo poured a cup of hot coffee back onto the woman who humiliated her, she thought the worst was behind her. The engagement was broken. The threats had stopped. Kong Seorian had given her his grandfather's ring. But an empire built on fear does not fall quietly. Director Cha has not forgiven the humiliation of losing his alliance. Kong Do-hyun, exposed and disgraced, has allies no one accounted for. And somewhere in Lagos, a face from Ibukinaliwa's past is about to step onto a plane to Seoul, carrying a secret that could unravel everything she has built. This time, the danger does not knock on the door. It already has a key. If you love the fearless cleaner who refused to bow her head, you need to see what she does when everything she has built is threatened at once. Subscribe and stay close. Part 2 begins now. The story. The phone rang at 4 in the morning, and Ibukinaliwa knew before she answered it that something was wrong, because nobody who loved her called at 4 in the morning unless the news could not wait for daylight. Ibu. Folake's voice was thin and stretched, the particular pitch of someone trying to sound calm and failing. Mama collapsed. They have taken her to the hospital. Ibukinaliwa sat up in bed so fast the room tilted. Beside her, Seorian stirred and was instantly, fully awake, the way he always was, no transition between sleep and alertness. What hospital? Ibukinaliwa said. Her voice came out steadier than she felt. What did the doctor say? They have not said anything yet. Ibu, I am scared. I am coming, Ibukinaliwa said. I am booking a flight right now. She hung up and was already moving, pulling a bag from the closet, when Seorian's hand closed gently around her wrist. I will arrange the flight, he said. Private. Faster than commercial. And you will not need to wait for a connection in Dubai or Doha. Seorian, I cannot ask you to. You did not ask, he said simply. Pack. I will call the airfield. 3 hours later she was in the air, looking down at the lights of Seoul falling away beneath the plane, her hands wrapped around a cup of tea she was not drinking, her mind running through every version of what might be waiting for her in Lagos. Seorian sat across from her, not pretending to work, not pretending to do anything except be there. She will be all right, he said. You do not know that. No, he agreed. I do not. But I know you, and I know that whatever happens, you will handle it the way you handle everything. With your spine straight. She looked at him for a long moment. Thank you for coming with me. I was not going to let you do this alone, he said, as though it had never been a question. Her mother had suffered a minor stroke. The Lagos hospital was overcrowded and underfunded, the hallways full of families fanning themselves in the heat, but the doctor, a tired, competent woman in her 50s, told Ibukinaliwa that with proper care and rehabilitation, a full recovery was likely. Proper care, the doctor said, with the particular weariness of someone who has had to say this sentence to too many families who cannot afford what it requires, means a private rehabilitation facility. Physiotherapy 3 times a week. Medication that is, unfortunately, expensive. Ibukinaliwa nodded slowly. I will find the money. Ibu, Folake said, when they stepped outside into the brutal Lagos sun, we do not have that kind of money. I have savings. Not enough. Not for months of this. Seorian, who had been standing a few steps away giving them privacy, said quietly, I can cover it. Both sisters turned to look at him. No, Ibukinaliwa said immediately. Ibu, he said, using her name the way he always did, careful and deliberate. This is not charity. This is not me buying something. This is a man helping the family of the woman he loves because he has the resources to do it, and there is no reason on earth not to. I have spent my whole life refusing to be someone's charity case. I am not asking you to be a charity case, he said. I am asking you to let someone who loves you carry something heavy when you do not have to carry it alone. That is what a partnership is. You taught me that, standing in a hotel corridor with coffee down your uniform, refusing to let anyone make you small. Do not now make yourself small by refusing help that costs me nothing and means everything to you. Folake, watching this exchange with wide eyes, said quietly, he is right, Ibu. Ibukinaliwa looked at the hospital entrance, at the families fanning themselves, at the place where her mother lay recovering, and she let out a long breath. Fine, she said, but I will pay you back. You will not, Seorian said, and the small near smile appeared. But you can argue with me about it for the rest of our lives if it makes you feel better. They stayed in Lagos for 9 days. Seorian met Tund, who studied him with the open, unguarded suspicion of a 17-year-old assessing the man dating his sister, and within 2 days had been thoroughly won over after Seorian spent an entire afternoon being soundly defeated at a video game Tund insisted on teaching him. He lost on purpose, Folake whispered to Ibukanaliwa, watching from the kitchen doorway. No, Ibukanaliwa said, smiling. He genuinely cannot play video games. It is the only thing in his life he has no control over. Their mother, propped up in her hospital bed, looked at Seorian for a long time when Ibukanaliwa introduced him, her sharp eyes, the same eyes she had passed down to both her daughters, moving over his face with the particular thoroughness of a Nigerian mother evaluating a man's intentions. You are the one who gave my daughter that ring, she said, nodding at Ibukanaliwa's hand. Yes, Ma. And you are the reason men tried to run her off a road in the dark. The room went very still. Seorian did not flinch. Yes, Ma. That is also true. I will not pretend otherwise to you. Her mother studied him for another long moment. Then she said, Good. A man who lies to a mother about danger is a man who will lie to a wife about it too. Sit down. Tell me how you intend to keep her safe, in detail, because I am not satisfied with feelings. I need a plan. Ibukanaliwa watched Seorian, who had negotiated with armed men and faced down his own uncle without blinking, sit very carefully on the edge of a plastic hospital chair and begin, with total seriousness, to outline his security arrangements to a 61-year-old Nigerian woman with a drip in her arm, and she had to leave the room briefly so they would not see her laughing. They returned to Seoul on the 10th day, her mother stable and improving, the rehabilitation facility paid for through the end of the year, and Ibukanaliwa allowed herself, for the first time in a long time, to feel something close to peace. It did not last. Jaiwan was waiting at the airfield when they landed, and the moment Ibukanaliwa saw his face, she knew. What happened? Seorian said, before Jaiwan had said a word. Director Cha met with 3 of the families who left after the restructuring, Jaiwan said. Quietly. Over the past week, while you were in Lagos. Met with them for what purpose? To propose an alliance against you. Specifically against you. Jaiwan's eyes moved briefly to Ibukanaliwa. He believes that the organization sees your relationship as a weakness. He is using it to recruit support. Seorian's expression did not change, but Ibukanaliwa, who had learned to read the small things in him, saw the muscle near his jaw tighten. There is something else, Jaiwan said. A woman arrived in Seoul 3 days ago from Lagos. She has been asking questions about you, Ibukanaliwa. At the hotel. At the language institute you attended. She gave a name that does not match any travel record we can find. Ibukanaliwa felt something cold move through her chest. What does she look like? Jaiwan showed her a photograph on his phone, taken from a distance outside the Daehan Grand Hotel. Ibukanaliwa went very still. You know her, Seorian said. It was not a question. Her name is Kayamika, Ibukanaliwa said quietly. She is the daughter of the man who accused me of theft in Lagos. The one whose advances I refused. The airfield around them, the quiet hum of the private terminal, suddenly felt very loud in the silence that followed. What does she want? Seorian asked. I do not know, Ibukanaliwa said. But her father lost his position after the truth came out about the false accusation. If she is here, she did not come to apologize. Kayamika found Ibukanaliwa 3 days later, not at the hotel, but outside the language institute where Ibukanaliwa still took occasional classes to maintain her certification. She was younger than Ibukanaliwa remembered, 24 now, with her father's sharp eyes and a designer coat that looked recently purchased and slightly too formal for the Seoul autumn afternoon. Ibukanaliwa, she said, stepping directly into her path. Ibukanaliwa stopped. She did not step back. Kayamika. You destroyed my father, Kayamika said. Her voice shook, not with fear, but with something that had clearly been rehearsed for a long time and was finally getting its moment. Did you know that? After the documents came out, the firm fired him. The other partners cut him off. He has not worked in 18 months. My mother had to sell the house. Ibukanaliwa felt the words land, and she did not look away from them, though they cost her something. I am sorry for what your family has lost, she said. I am not sorry for the truth coming out. He lied about me because I refused him. That cost me 2 years of fear and an investigation that nearly ended everything I was trying to build. The consequences he is facing now are the consequences of what he did, not what I did. Easy for you to say. You have everything now. Kayamika's eyes moved over her, taking in the quality of her coat, the ring on her hand, the particular settledness of a woman who has stopped having to fight for survival every single day. A Korean billionaire. A new life. Everyone in Lagos talks about you like you are some kind of miracle. Meanwhile, my family has nothing. What do you want, Kayamika? I want you to fix it, Kayamika said. I want you to use your new money, your new power, to get my father reinstated, to clear his name publicly, to make this go away. Ibukanaliwa looked at her for a long moment, and underneath the anger she could see something else in the younger woman's face, something raw and frightened and genuinely desperate. I cannot clear a name that was never falsely accused, Ibukanaliwa said quietly. Your father did something wrong. I will not lie about that, not even to ease your family's pain. But I am not without compassion, Kayamika. If your family needs help, real help, not a cover-up, I will look into what I can do. I do not want your charity. Then what exactly did you fly to Seoul to ask for? Kayamika's composure cracked slightly. I do not know, she admitted, and for a moment she looked very young and very lost. I just wanted someone to be as unhappy as we are. Ibukanaliwa stood quietly for a moment, looking at the woman in front of her, and thought about how much of the last 3 years had been a long, unbroken chain of people trying to make her small, and how tired she was of that chain, and how little good it would do anyone to add another link to it. Come with me, she said. Let us get a coffee, and you can tell me honestly what your family actually needs. Not revenge. Need. Kayamika stared at her. After everything, you would do that? I have poured enough coffee and anger to last a lifetime, Ibukanaliwa said, and there was the faintest trace of dry humor in it. I would like to pour one in peace, for once. Jaiwan was deeply suspicious of the entire arrangement, and said so at length to Seorian that evening. She could be working for someone, Jaiwan said. Director Cha, Do-hyen's remaining allies. It is exactly the kind of soft entry point a smart enemy would use. I considered that, Seorian said. I had her followed and her communications monitored since she landed. She is exactly what she appears to be. An angry, frightened young woman whose family fell apart, and who does not know who else to blame. And Ibukanaliwa believes that, or you believe that. Both, Seorian said. But it does not matter what either of us believes. It is her decision, not ours. Jaiwan studied him. You have changed. Yes. Is that going to be a problem for the organization? Seorian considered the question seriously, the way he considered everything Jaiwan asked him. My father ruled through fear and never once let anyone close enough to question him. He died feared and very much alone, surrounded by men who were waiting for him to be weak enough to replace. I do not intend to die that way. He paused. Strength that cannot bend is not strength, Jaiwan. It is just brittleness with good posture. Jaiwan was quiet for a moment. Then, despite himself, he smiled. I am going to use that line on my own son someday. You have a son? I am thinking about it, Jaiwan said, and Seorian laughed, a real laugh, rare enough that Jaiwan stored the sound away to remember. The Alliance Director Cha was building came to a head on a Tuesday evening. In a private dining room at one of the restaurants the organization had used for decades to settle matters that could not be settled anywhere with cameras. Seorian arrived with Jaiwan and 2 senior members loyal to him since the restructuring. Director Cha arrived with representatives from the 3 families he had been courting, and, to Seorian's surprise, with Mincio. She looked different than she had 6 months earlier. Thinner, more composed in a different way, the cold performance of confidence replaced by something quieter. Mincio, Seorian said, with a small inclination of his head. I am not here to support my father's plan, she said immediately, before anyone else could speak. I am here because he insisted, and I told him I would only come to say this once, in front of everyone he is trying to recruit. She turned to the men seated around the table. My father is asking you to go to war against Kong Seorian because he is embarrassed that I lost an engagement. That is the entire foundation of what he is proposing. Not strategy, not business. Wounded pride dressed up as a business decision. Mincio, Director Cha said sharply, sit down. No, she said, and there was something in her voice that silenced the room more effectively than any threat could have. I spent years being told that my value was in what alliance I could secure for this family. I believed it for a long time. I did things I am not proud of because of it. Her eyes moved, briefly, to where Ibukanaliwa was not present, but whose absence everyone in the room felt anyway. I am done being a weapon for my father's pride. If you want to go to war with Seorian, gentlemen, You should know you are going to war over a coffee cup and a man's wounded ego. Decide for yourselves if that is a hill worth dying on." She turned and walked out. The room sat in a long, charged silence after she left. One of the three family representatives, an older man who had said little throughout the evening, finally cleared his throat. "Director Cha," he said carefully, "I believe I require some time to reconsider my position." By the end of the night, Director Cha's alliance had collapsed entirely, undone by his own daughter in a single unscripted act of honesty. Seorian found Mincio outside the restaurant afterward, standing alone on the street, her breath visible in the cold evening air. "Thank you," he said. She looked at him for a long moment. "I did not do it for you," she said. "I did it because I am tired of being someone my father uses, and I am tired of being the version of myself that poured coffee on a woman who never did anything to me except exist somewhere I felt threatened by." She wrapped her arms around herself. "Tell her I am sorry. I do not expect her to accept it. I just need her to hear it." "I will tell her," Seorian said. Mincio nodded once and walked away into the cold soul night, and Seorian watched her go, feeling something that was not quite forgiveness and not quite closure, but was, perhaps, the beginning of both. Ibukinayua listened to the account of the evening when Seorian told her, sitting across from him at their kitchen table, 2 cups of tea between them. "She actually said that," she said, in front of all of them, word for word. Ibukinayua was quiet for a long moment. "I am not going to pretend we will ever be friends," she said finally. "But I think I understand her a little better now. People who have only ever been taught their worth comes from what they can secure for someone else do desperate things when they feel that worth slipping away." She wrapped her hands around her tea. "I hope she finds out what she is worth outside of all that. That is generous of you." "I have had a complicated year," Ibukinayua said, with the faintest smile. "I learned a few things about grace along the way." Seorian reached across the table and covered her hand with his, the flat black stone ring long since transferred to her finger, his hand bare and warm against hers. "What did Kayamika decide in the end?" he asked. "She is going back to Lagos next week," Ibukinayua said. "I am helping her find her father a position, somewhere small, somewhere he can rebuild slowly and honestly. Not because he deserves rescuing, because she does, and because his redemption is the only road back to hers." She looked at Seorian. "I told her something my mother used to tell me when I was small. You cannot pour kindness from an empty cup. But you also cannot keep refilling a cup with bitterness and expect anything but more bitterness to come out of it eventually." Seorian studied her face in the warm kitchen light, the woman who had walked into a hotel lounge with nothing but a cleaning cart and walked out, eventually, with an empire's loyalty and his entire heart. "I love you," he said, simply, the way he said the things that mattered most, without ceremony, without performance. Just the plain truth set down on the table between them like the cups of tea. "I know," she said, and smiled, the full smile that had taken him 11 months to earn the first time and that he never tired of seeing. "I love you too. Even on the days you lose every video game my brother teaches you. Especially those days," he said, and for once, his near smile became something close to a full one. Outside their window, Seoul moved through its evening the way it always did, indifferent and enormous and alive, holding within it a hotel where a woman still occasionally walked past the 7th-floor lounge and remembered exactly who she had been before everything changed, and exactly who she had decided, in that single defiant moment, to become. She had poured the coffee back not because she wanted a war. She had poured it back because some things cost more to swallow than to refuse. Everything that followed, the danger, the love, the family she gained and the family she nearly lost, all of it had grown from that single small refusal to bow her head. It was, she thought, looking at the ring on her hand and the man across the table who had built an entire new understanding of strength around watching her hold a cup of coffee steady, the best decision she had ever made. If this story moved you, if you found yourself rooting for Ibukinayua through every twist, please subscribe, like this video, and leave a comment telling us your favorite moment. Was it the coffee? The hospital? Mincio's confession in front of the whole room? We read every comment, and your support is what brings these stories to life, staying until the end. See you in the next story.